Tonight, we know fulfillment. Tonight, God's promise of a Savior has come to pass. Jesus is born. We spend much of our lives in between, on the way, in liminal times of uncertainty and doubt, seeking and growth. Spiritually and liturgically, we've just spent a month getting ready, waiting, hoping, preparing for the fulfillment of God's promise that we know tonight. We have clung to God's promise of light even as the darkness has deepened. We sometimes find ourselves impatient or frustrated in that space, and yet the seeking and yearning, the doubt and disbelief also has its own strange kind of comfort and safety. Seeking a better, more fulfilled life can actually be more popular than finding it. Our consumer system certainly relies on our unending, unfulfilled desire. We're bombarded with messages of this toy or this tech, this travel destination, this item of clothing or jewelry. This is what will bring you joy and peace and fulfillment. And maybe it works for a short time until the next style or new model comes along. And leaving our options open can be more appealing than deciding on a direction, committing to a way. We tend to speak more about the journey than the destination. I'm as guilty as any. I believe in the importance of lifelong learning, the need for doubt that opens up possibilities and challenges the status quo. I believe in the power of a spirit of continually seeking. I believe that when individuals or communities think they have arrived, when we think we have all the right answers, we begin down a dangerous road that can too easily lead to violence or abuse. I wonder, though, in the starlight tonight, if the uncertainty and doubt of liminal times can itself be a strangely static state, a paralysis of constant activity and endless analysis. In the book of spiritual wisdom, Sabbath, Finding Rest, Renewal, and Delight in Our Busy Lives, pastor and counselor Wayne Mueller writes about the relentless busyness of modern life. He reflects on the ancient practice of Sabbath keeping as, quote, a revolutionary challenge to the violence of overwork, mindless accumulation, and the endless multiplication of desires, responsibilities, and accomplishments. Near the end of the book, in a chapter called The Way of Enough, he writes of a woman he met on a retreat. She had devoted her whole life to spiritual seeking. He recalls she had traveled to sacred sites, attended countless retreats and workshops, sought teachers and guides. It had, she confessed, been a time of much striving. It had been fruitful in some ways, yet she felt tired, weary. She was getting older. She wondered how much stamina she had left to continue her search. You have been a seeker for so long, Mueller says. Why not become a finder at this stage in your life? What if you imagined you were ready to let go of seeking and begin finding? She remained silent for a time. This story continues. A look of deep confusion on her face, her head slightly tilted, as if she were trying to hear a sound far away. Maybe it was the sound of angels announcing God's birth, singing praises to God. Then suddenly a laugh exploded from deep in her belly. A finder! What a delight! How could I never have imagined it before? She had been so focused on the search. She had never taken time to rejoice in the blessing, the gift of finding. It's why tonight is so important. It's why moments of fulfillment, like the birth we celebrate tonight, matters so much. Tonight, we are invited to set aside our doubt and our mistrust, to bring our seeking, our striving, and our questioning to an end. at the cradle side of Jesus. Tonight, throughout the Christmas season and on into Epiphany, we're encouraged to be finders and to know the finding as a gift, to know the rest and peace, the joy and love of a miraculous story. It's not always so, it should not always be so, but it is so on this holy night when Jesus is born and God's promise of salvation is fulfilled. Perhaps the hardest thing about laying aside our seeking to choose finding instead is that God's love always surprises us. Faithful finding means being open to the unexpected, unexpected answers, surprising directions, new ways. Back 2,000 years ago, nobody expected the Messiah to come as a baby, little and vulnerable, wholly dependent on humanity to raise him. If the creator of the universe is going to break into the world, sensible people would expect a great warrior, a strong leader, a spiritual giant. But God defies all such expectation and chooses instead to come in poverty and simplicity to average people in a small town. God makes this grand announcement of a glorious miracle with a magnificent display of angels singing out in the countryside. And it's the least and the last of society, the night shifters who didn't get the holiday off work. They're the ones who get the miracle, who see the display, who are the audience for God. God surprises us, defying our ideas of what it means to find and to be found. Tonight, God's promise of salvation is fulfilled, whether or not we recognize it, whether or not we accept it. Our constant searching and uncertainty might mean that we miss the cry and pass by the call of a baby lying in a manger. We might tune out the song of the angels or dismiss the witness of the shepherds. Nevertheless, however odd and unbelievable, the fulfillment of God's promise of salvation has been born tonight, and we can rest in the gift of finding it and of being found through it. Tonight, we know fulfillment.